بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد.
Hello, welcome to Islamic Civilization, Session 4, which deals with the pre-Islamic Arabs. My name is Abdul Karim Khan. I teach here at Leeward Community College, and I will be with you for quite some time in finishing the Islamic Civilization class History 251. So today we are going to be talking about Session 4, and that would be dealing with the pre-Islamic Arabs. Let's see what we have today in the pre-Islamic Arab Session 4. First, the objectives, what we have in today's presentation. We will talk about the Bedouins and the townspeople and their distinction in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of their social structure. We will talk about the tribes, clans, and families, and how important they are in the lives of the Bedouins, and especially also of the town people, and what makes the difference between the two of them in terms of the social structure. We will also talk about the pre-Islamic religions in Arabia, and that they would run from about, from the pagans down to the Muslims. Then we would talk about the Arab ethnicity and language, what makes an Arab Arab, what's the language, Arabic language. So today's presentation is about the pre-Islamic Arabs, and that's why there would be a lot of things from language to religion to society to culture, as well as some of the features of the Bedouin people. Most of these would help us in understanding the rise of Islam, and you would see how much Islam was helped by some of the Arab cultural features and the region where Islam was born, and how from that region, modern day Saudi Arabia or ancient Arabia, how Islam spread out of Arabia and spread in almost every corner on every continent, and how that progress, which would come down the road, in the sessions. So it's important for you to understand right now what happens in terms of the culture, the Arab language, and how much it helped Islam in the message, in spreading the message of Islam. First, we will talk about the Arabs in terms of and other Semitic people and languages, and that would be the Semitic people. Now we can easily identify, and this is not really exact science, but based on archaeology, based on documents, based on history and folklore. And so Semitic people, although in the United States and Europe, we identify Semitic people with the Jewish people. So to be Semitic, it means, in the American experience or the European experience, it means to be a Jewish person. But that's not really true. Although the Jewish people are Semitic, but they are not the only Semitic people. And where do we get this terminology of Semites or Semitic? Well, it comes from the son of Noah. Noah, an Old Testament person, also in Christianity and Islam, is considered to be a prophet, a messenger of God, who spread the message of God. Some people believed in him, some people did not believe in his message. And we know even the story of the Noah's flood, how God destroyed, the people who in fact, did not listen to what the message of Noah was, bringing people to the worship of one God. So that was simple message to believe in one God, but Some people believe, some did not, and hence the result was the Noah flood for those people who got destroyed. So he had a son. After everybody survived, his sons and children survived. So one of them was Shem, and it is from the name of Shem that we get the terminology of Semitic and Semites. The Hebrew or the Arabic terminology is Sam. That was his name. And so Sami people, Semitic people, are those people who were the children of the Noah's son, Shem. Now, there were a lot of them because, with the passage of time, they increased in numbers, but not just only one group of people. There were a lot of groups in the Middle East, especially in that area, in the modern day Middle East, different groups who were, assimilated in other groups or who were destroyed by other groups. So Bible, especially the Old Testament, talks about the Semitic people, although they may not be identified as Hebrews only or Jewish only, but there were other people. For example, a very important group of people, highly important, and they are talked about in the Old Testament. They are called Babylonians, from Babylon, which was in ancient Mesopotamia or modern day Iraq. So the Babylonian people were Semitic people. There were other people also in the region, but as I said, some of them were assimilated, some of them were destroyed, some of them, moved on from one place to another place and just disappeared, simple as that. So we will today talk about the major groups of the Semitic people in this region, and let's see further what we have in session 4. So I talked about the Noah's son Shem, and from whom we get, Semitic languages and people. However, when we say Semitic languages, we do not identify or emphasize the ethnicities of the people, because language can be adopted by any group of people, any race, any ethnicity. That could be white, that could be black, that could be, of any color person who takes a Semitic language. And let's see some of these Semitic languages. The bigger group in the Semitic languages is the Arabic. Then Arabic, which is, predominantly a Middle Eastern language spoken in entire Middle East. Aramaic, very important language. So far Christianity is concerned, and this was the language of Jesus or his particular tribe, sort of a mixture or related to both Arabic as well as Hebrew. Another Semitic language was Akkadian, although most of it's lost. Aramaic still is used, believe it or not, in some of the liturgy, Christian liturgy in Iraq. Very ancient language, although it's not spoken, in day-to-day discourse, but still very important language, Aramaic, because that was the language of Jesus. Then the Akkadian, then Hebrew, which is, predominantly the language in Israel. And it was revived, so to speak, after the establishment of the Jewish state in 1948. So Hebrew language was revived. Now, these are only the few languages that matter the most, because they are right now, as we speak, in business. Arabic, as I said, that's the predominant language in the Middle East. Aramaic, the language of Jesus. Early Christianity. It is still used in some Arab Christian churches, especially in Iraq, as liturgy. Some might use it even in Syria, although Iraq and Syria both are Muslim countries, predominantly Muslim countries, but they have, they're Christians. And Aramaic, historians tell us that after Jesus, when Christianity became, widespread, it became widespread among the Romans, among the Greeks, among the Arabs at one time. So Aramaic was also very widespread. However, Christians used more Greek in Europe, more Latin in Europe, and so that decreased. And also Christian in the Middle East use Arabic more, so that decreased the usage of Aramaic. And that's how by about 400 after Christ or 300 after Christ, we do not use, Aramaic was not used as a major language, and so it lost its popularity or its usage, so to speak, in the region because of, number one, as I said, the Greek language, Arabic language, and Latin languages. And all these three languages were adopted by Christians who once upon a time, their forefathers used widely Aramaic language. Okay, so we can go beyond the languages now in the presentation and see what else do we have. Semitic, Greek, and Roman scripts. This is a very interesting thing, that one particular language, the Phoenician, which was spoken and as well as had a wonderful script. That Phoenician language was Semitic language, and it was based upon this Semitic Phoenician script that the Greek people used it, and the Greeks, in fact, invented their own script to write their Greek language. It's just amazing that Greek, the first European civilization, the Romans, the second European civilization, that they would use basically a Semitic language, Phoenician, to write their languages. Now, this is a very old phenomena, and it can still happen. How was it possible for the Greeks or the Romans to use Phoenician language to create their own script? Well, if you think about it, Japanese, they have a speech language, but they did not have a script to write their Japanese language. So they borrowed script from the Chinese. And so they started writing Japanese in Chinese. Similarly, the Korean also adopted some of the characters. Now, this is quite common. If you look at Hawaiian language, it's spoken, has nothing to do in any, terminology, so to speak, the vocabulary, very different from English. But that Hawaiian language can be written in English, and I can write it in Arabic. Every word that you say in Hawaiian, I can write it in Arabic, because Arabic is also a language that you can almost write any language in it. So that is how every nation, every group of people, they have their language to speak, but they do not have a script to write their language. And if you never invented your own script, then you borrow from someone else to write your language. And with the passage of time, you try your best to make the two compatible and remove the discrepancies, so to speak, in the speech and in the script. And that's what happened to the Phoenician language that we talked about. Okay, let's see what else do we have in this presentation. Okay, here, Arab before Islam. And let's see the Arab people. The original people, especially in the south of Arabia, called the Banu Qahtan, and later on in political terminology, they are called the Himyarites, because the Banu Qahtan people and some other people created a sort of Himyarite empire in the south. So that's why the Banu Qahtan and Himyarites, they are the same people. They were in southern Arabia. One group of people that came to prominence in history, the Sabaean, or the land of Sheba, mostly modern day Yemen. Sheba, if you remember, she, a queen of the land of Saba in Yemen, and she is also mentioned in the Old Testament, sort of a person who had a meeting with King Solomon. So she belonged to the southern Arabia or modern day Yemen, the land of Saba, and the people are known as Sabaean. Another group of people, Arab Mustariba, the naturalized Arabs. That is interesting. Naturalized Arab, that would mean that these were not the sons and daughters of Arabia originally, but came from outside and settled in northern Arabia. One group of people were the Ishmaelites of the northern Arabia, and these Ishmaelites came from outside. Now, Ishmael, one of the two sons of Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, or alayhi salam in Arabic, as we say. So these Ishmaelites coming from outside and settling in northern Arabia. And then what happened was they brought with themselves, the folklore, their stories from outside and mixed with the other people in the north and came to prominence. It would be this group of people, the Ishmaelites, in fact, that would play a major role in the rise of Islam. In fact, the group, the Quraysh, and the family of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who started Islam, the Prophet of Islam, belonged to this group of people, the Ishmaelites, and that is how the Prophet could even, trace back his family tree from himself to from his father and grandfather and grandfather, and end up at even at Ishmael, although he did tell people that there could be some gaps because people did not keep the records, and so there could be, so he would warn about tracing the family tree to a long period back in history, and so he would warn them that don't go beyond certain limit or beyond certain generations, because there could be some gaps and may not be true even. So just wanted to tell you that Ishmaelites, very important group of people, and that's how Ismail or Ishmael becomes very prominent in the history of Islam. So, and we will talk about that later on when we go further in the presentation. Now, we talked about the Ishmaelites in the north and the Sabaean in the south. Another group of people that emerged, powerful, very powerful, the Nabateans, who had their capital at Petra, and this Mustariba or the Ishmaelite, the naturalized people, belonged to originally to the Nabatean people, and they were the one who started the Nabatean culture or empire based in Petra. Down south in Sheba, the Banu Qatayq, Himyarites, as I said, these people, Qahtan people, the Himyarites, they came to prominence. And so when you see all these terminologies, the Banu Qahtan, the Himyarites related to the Sheba people, or the Arab Mustariba, the naturalized Arabs, also called Ishmaelites and previously also known as Nabateans, don't be confused by these terminologies, because some of them are the same people, but because of the political power they are known with one name. Because of their ethnicity or ancestral identification, they might be known under another name, but basically they are the same people. However, keep in mind that people in the south, quite for some time, they would say that the real people, the sons and daughters of Arabia, were the people in the south, and so the people in the south are very proud of their ancestry. Let's see what else we have here. Now, the Arab people before Islam. You could do another division of the Arab people between the desert dwellers, Bedouins, and the townspeople, the Ahlul Hadara. You don't need to, to refer them as Ahlul Hadara, but we can easily call them the town people. This division is important. Culturally, religiously, socially, economically also, and that's how the people, the Arab people, used to divide themselves between the desert dwellers and the town people. And let's see what difference that would make. Okay, the town and the desert dwellers. Here you have quite a few towns from south upward, down south in Yemen. You have Aden, Main, Mecca, Medina in the center, Hijra, Petra, Basra, and Palmyra, and Basra in the east, Leave Kome in the west. Up north further, you have Gaza in modern-day Palestine. You have Damascus in Syria. Now, if you look at these towns basically are towns very close to the desert. And this is just amazing. if you look at the nature, I mean the location of the towns, almost all towns in the Middle East are nearer to the body of water, whether they are, on the Red Sea or in the Persian Gulf, left and right, or they are in the Indian Ocean down south, the Arabian Sea, or further north in the Eastern Mediterranean. So towns need water, and because of that, maybe, or they live close to the body of water to do communication, trade, and business. So that's why wherever you have a major body of water, there you would have, of course, a civilization. There would have cities and towns and people and population, trade and business and all that. So that's what you have here on this map, the people of town. Now, Saudi Arabia, if you look at it, it is definitely nothing but a desert, especially if you see it from above, space, you don't see anything. Desert, and it's known as desert, no question about that. Further north, even, another desert. But these deserts also had towns. And so now in ancient Arabia, you had two types of people. People living in the towns close to the Red Sea or the Persian Gulf. And in between, you had people living in the desert. And these people who live in the desert, we call them Bedouin. In fact, the English terminology Bedouin comes out of the Arabic word, almost the same word, Bedouin. And they are called Bedouin because they live in Baida, Arabic for desert, Baida. So they are the people, Bedouin are the people of Baida, B-A-I-D-A, and that's the reason they are called Bedouins. But these Bedouins also had very good contacts with the town people east and west. And some of these Bedouins, although some would stay in their, in the desert, but not completely out in the desert under the sun, but in the desert, as you noticed, some in the session 3 and session 2, you notice there were valleys, and inside the desert, water. And those places that had water, had valleys, they did have some sort of a subsistence agriculture. And so that was enough to, get them through the day, food, and they would import food also. That's another, something about the Bedouin people. Now, Bedouin, we could divide them also into two. Those who were predominantly engaged in agriculture, very tough activity in the desert. So most of their time was consumed in the production of subsistence agriculture, just enough for, the people to live by. Another section of the same Bedouin were engaged in trade and business, and that is an important group of people that we need to talk about. Let's see. And those would be the nomads. Nomads, not because that they were, moving up and down, north and south, or east and west, and roaming around in the desert for nothing. No, they had a great purpose to play in the society and their economy, and that would be trade and business. And so the Bedouins, they went from, town to town, would hawk items, take items from one place and sell them another place where they were needed, and that was a very important, role that they played. Also, these Bedouins were very much, they had the knowledge of people of different towns, and not only in their own areas, but also they had knowledge of other communities and other countries. For example, if we take modern day Saudi Arabia, Mecca and Medina, for example, on the east coast of the Red Sea. So they would know these people, but at the same time, they would know people in Iraq, up north in Basra. They would know also people in Bosra, further, north in Syria, and even in Damascus, and way beyond that, who knows, maybe to, places like Persepolis in Persia. And since we don't have, much of a good archaeology and documents to, look where they went and what they brought or they took in terms of the trade items, that is why we are a little bit in dark. But it is well established that these nomads, people of the desert, given to trade and business, that was the trade that they would do, just like the city people did. So did the people of the desert, the Bedouins. They were nomads and would engage in trade and business, and thus they had accumulated a very good knowledge of who was who and where, which community or group of people would produce what item. It would be this type of knowledge that Muslims later on would use in contacting other people. And the result would be, you would see a very close relationship, a very intimate, close relationship between the religion of Islam and the commercial activity of trade and business. And that is, just unbelievable, because, the popular story or sort of the stereotype is that Islam spread through the sword. They went to a place and told people either convert or we will kill you, And that was maybe in some places the case, but that was not the real reason for which Islam spread. And so down the road, we will see that how much trade and business, commerce, played itself in the spread of Islam. That's why I wanted to tell you that the nomads played a major role in the creation of knowledge about communities, about countries, and even continents. And that knowledge would help Muslims to spread their religion, Islam. Let's see further. Still staying with Bedouins, and wherever they would go, of course, all that they needed was their tent, and in that tent, was their whole world, outside and inside. Right there you see a Bedouin family. This is sort of a modern Bedouin family, but you can, imagine this was exactly life as it was, very much closely tied to the family people, whether they were Bedouin living in the deserts, or nomads on the move, or the town people settling, in their towns, settled people in the towns. Family was very important, as it is today, because it was the member of the family that kept the entire family protected. This would lead us to something else also, and I will talk about it in a few minutes. So family, very important. That family also was connected through marriages to another family, and that other family was connected through marriages to another family, and that would create sort of, a small group of families, a clan. They could claim even the same ancestor. That clan and other clans would come together and create their own tribe. And they would all feel like as if they belonged to the same ancestor, and sometime even praying to the same set of gods and goddesses. We are talking about pre-Islamic Arabia. So this was a major feature of the pre-Islamic Arabia, that life was very much tied to the family, to the clan, and to the tribe and their gods and goddesses. And in between, people would do wrong things, and those wrong things would be considered as right things, and would be protected under the tribal laws or their clan laws. And so one for all and all for one, that type of a situation, Islam changed. It took life, social, political, economic, out of the wrong notions of family, out of the wrong notions of clan, and out of the wrong notions of a tribe, and based it on faith, on certain principles, social principle, cultural, economic, and political principles, to which everybody could, subscribe and contribute and benefit from. So this would be a major contribution of Islam to the Arab people, that would create a brotherhood of diverse clans and tribes. And that diverse group of people would come together under the message of Islam, under one God, under one Islam, under one leader, under one, moral code as Islam has it. And so they would live under sort of a moral constitution, so to speak, and that we would see again and again in these presentations. Let's see further. Staying with the Bedouins, and these Bedouins had their own professions. Their poetry, very important, profession, a hobby, but also, paid and profession. Singers, of course, every culture has them. As musicians, without which you cannot have any culture. So the Bedouins' life, also had its own sort of entertainments and professions, and some of them would be good, maker or manufacturers. For example, swords makers. They would, have saddles, horse, shoes, and those type of things that one could need in terms of protection in fighting in army to protect themselves. Let's see what else. Oh, here, great. So you have one reaction report based on what I said. So I say, write a brief note on the Arabian Bedouin lifestyle and their professions. That would be in 100 or 200 words, it's up to you. But do not summarize my lecture for me. Give me your opinion, your views, and your sort of, perspective on what I just said. Let's see what else. All right, we move on from the Bedouin and the nomads to who are the Arabs? A big question. And the answer is simple: any group of people who speak Arabic. That means you really do not have to belong to a certain ethnicity or religion or race. Any person who speaks Arabic is an Arab. Yes, that could be a very modern, definition of the Arab, but that has always been. People came to Arabia, they settled down either for, especially under Islam. During the time of Islam, different people came and settled and married, locally, and so they became Arabs just because they could speak Arabic. And so one could belong to any religion, ethnicity, and they would be still called Arabs because they spoke Arabic. And that's what I'm coming to. Arab could be pagans. Before, Islam, Arabs had different deities, different gods and goddesses, and different, ways of beliefs and worships. Jews were also Arabs, and Arabs could be Jews. Very proud of them. And why these people are called Arabs? Because they used Arabic as the daily language, inside home and outside home. Arab Jews, Arab Christians, and Arab Muslims. So when it comes to Muslims, not all Muslims are Arabs. Only close to about 20% Muslims are Arabs. The vast majority of Muslims are non-Arab Muslims, and the greatest country of Muslims is Indonesia. Next would be Pakistan, Bangladesh, and even in India. There are more Muslims in India than some of, most of the Arab countries. Islam is a huge, big religion. So similarly, Christians, they could be Russian, Polish, whoever, but then there are Arab Christians. And after all, Christianity was born in modern day Palestine. And so that's why I had a very close affinity to Arabic language and Arab people. And some of the early Muslims were basically, Arab Muslims were, Arab Christians. Similarly, Jews. They could be Persian, they could be Polish, Russian, but also Arab Jews, and so were the pagans, and paganism, is now completely wiped out. Let's see what else. Okay. Almost every Arab Muslim country had and still has its Jewish and Christian minority citizens. Almost, I say almost every Arab country. Now, maybe in your reaction report, you could tell me, what is that one particular Arab Muslim country, very, very important Muslim Arab country that does not have any sizable Jewish or Christian minority as its citizens. So that is, maybe you can find out on your own. I don't tell you that. So keep in mind, almost every Arab Muslim country had and still has its Jewish Christian minority citizens. Okay, from Morocco down to Palestine and Yemen, it has Christians and Jews and, maybe some other, believers also, but that would be a really tiny minority. So here is something to think about. If an Arab is not a Muslim, if an Arab is not the follower of the religion of Islam, then definitely he or she is a Christian. And or not and. So he or she is a Christian, or he or she is a Jew, or maybe some, who knows, Zoroastrian even, which is a very, which used to be a very predominantly Persian religion of Zarathustra or Zoroaster. So it might sound, very strange to you how an Arab could be a Christian or a Jew. But that's, the reality. There are Arab Christians, and they're very proud of, and Jews, very proud of their Arabic language, very proud of their Arabic heritage and culture. And some of these, the Jews, after the establishment, of course, of Israel, a lot of them went, but some stayed in the places where, they were living there since, thousands and thousands of years ago. And so they stayed there. They would not go to Israel, and stayed in their predominantly Muslim countries. The relationship between Muslims and Christian and Jews, sometimes it can be a bit trouble between the three of them, and troublesome situation, political, economic, but most of the time it has remained, very good, I would say. Maybe not ideal, but very good compared to what happened, to the Jewish population in Eastern Europe and Western Europe not too long ago. This was not before Christ, just so recently in the Second World War. Look at what happened to the Jewish community in, Germany and other Eastern European countries at the hand of, the gang of Hitler, the Nazis, Holocaust. It was the most horrible thing to happen to any community that happened to the European Jews, and even before that, pogroms, the systematic persecution of the Jewish people by Eastern European people, particularly, in Poland. So that sort of thing never happened, among Muslims. Muslims or Arabs, they did not do these type of things to the Jewish communities or to the Christian communities. And there are, fighting between Muslims and Muslims, and we would, talk about that too. But God forbid it, nothing like that, like the Holocaust or like pogroms that happened to the religious minorities, especially the Jewish people in Europe. Let's see what else do we have in session 4. So we establish who is the Arab, anybody who speaks Arabic. And as I said in the last point, almost all Jews left for Israel in 1945 when that Jewish state of Israel was created. Okay. Non-Muslim Arabs. All right. Cyrus the Great, who was the emperor of Persia, he was an Iranian person, not an Arab. But what he did, he freed the Jewish people from Babylonian captivity in Iraq 537 years before Christ, BC, before Christ. And so it created a sort of a Jewish diaspora, the dispersal of the Jewish people when Cyrus told the Jewish communities in Babylon, in modern-day Iraq or ancient Mesopotamia, that you are free to go home. If you want to go back to Palestine, that you could do, or Israel, or if you want to go with me to Persia, they did that too. So a lot of them, they went to Iran, ancient Persia, and till this day there are Jewish people in Iran. By one count, there are about more than 50,000 Jewish people in Iran. And why the Jewish people would not leave Iran? Well, as I told you, they are very proud of their Persian Iranian heritage, their language, their culture, and that has been the place where they have been living, for thousand and thousand years. So why should they leave it? And so, and especially if there is, not an active or systematic or state, deliberate persecution of the people. So why should they leave? And so they enjoy life in Iran and other Middle Eastern countries, Muslim countries, and so they live there. Although, as I said, a lot of Jewish people left, but some, for Israel, and some stayed on. All right, so we talked about the Arab Jews, and there you have, a rabbi reading from the Torah. There you have on the other slide, the black and white Jewish family. Jews living among Arabs. There is a Jewish couple. I believe they are from Tunisia. On the right, you have a Jewish rabbi along with his, staff, officials in Syria, and till this day, there are, as I said, Jewish people among Arabs. Here you see a synagogue, Eliyahu Hanavi synagogue in Alexandria in Egypt, and look at that, built in 1354, and it's still there. Think about it, it's a very old synagogue, maybe changed, and refurbished and reinforced, but still there, in Alexandria. And so that speaks volumes of the fact that there are Jews in Egypt, which is a predominantly Muslim country, in Syria, in Turkey, in Iran, throughout, North Africa, maybe not in big numbers, but also as far west as Morocco, you have Jewish communities. And of course, as I said, there are more Christians, of course, among the Arab than Jews, because a lot of Jews left in 1948 when the Jewish state of Israel was established. Okay, let's see what else. Now, the 10 Commandments, of course, shared by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, very important, coming out of the Jewish tradition, the 10 Commandments. But they also, they are part and parcel of the Christian and the Islamic beliefs and practices. Rather than going into, each one of them, so you can have them from anywhere, from books and online, and all of them, they make you a good person when you follow them. Look at this one: honor your father and mother. A very universal, advice, so to speak, and practice widely, whether you are a Jew, Christian, Muslim, or Chinese, Confucian, or Hindu. People respect their father and mother, their parents. Do not murder, do not commit adultery, and do not steal. And so all these are, basic fundamental things to create a good society anywhere you are. You don't have to be a Hebrew, you don't have to be a Jew or a Christian or Muslim for these 10 great commandments. The Muslim holy book, Quran, has not only these but others also. And there are, they have these and their own other commandments of prayer and fasting and giving charity. So similarly, in Confucianism, you have very good, advice how to have a good society. In Hinduism, similarly, and that's why, those nations, they still persist. I mean, they continue and they exist because of the good things that each, religion has for their society. Okay, let's see further. But I wanted to show you the 10 Commandments being, the sort of a base to start, and have a good society of the Jewish people, Christian as well as Muslims. Okay, non-Muslim Arabs, Arab Christians, very important, right there, and so everywhere, almost everywhere you have. This is Arab Christian, a priest, and you have them in Palestine, Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, Turkey, and Morocco. A lot of Christians, and their great historical churches, unbelievably, historic. Okay. Here is one, St. Mark Coptic Orthodox Cathedral in Alexandria, in Egypt. That might, the Coptic, Orthodox would be very closely related to the Greek Orthodox. Maybe not so much, to Catholic or Baptist or Lutheran churches, but these are, the original Arabs in their Christian traditions. Okay, what else? Still staying with non-Muslim Arabs here. This is a Bible, in Arabic, and there is a writing from in Arabic from the Bible. Sometime I can, when I ask my Muslim friends to read this, when they read it, they say, "Wow, look at this! You said this is from Bible. It looks like from Quran." And if I can read it for you, this would be ويكرز ببشارة ملكوت هذه في كل مسكونة شهادة لجميع الأمم ثم يأتي منتهى. In English, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall come the end, or then shall the end come. So what you have here, it's amazing. This was from Bible in Arabic. And of course, you could have Bible in any language, in Russian, in English, of course, but one of the original languages that Bible used was Arabic. This Arabic did a miraculous thing for Islam in terms of the Christianity. Remember, we talked about pagans. They converted to Islam. Christians converted to Islam. Jewish people converted to Islam. They had one thing in common, and that was Arabic language. And because a Muslim Arab would talk to a Jewish Arab, to a pagan Arab, and to a Christian Arab, using the language, and convincing the person of the reality or of the wisdom of Islam, and converting the person to Islam. Language did wonderful things for Islam, the spread of Islam. And as when a Christian person looks at this, he takes great pride of the message in the Bible. When a Muslim person looks at it, he also can identify with it because not only it's written in Arabic, but the message is so similar to Islam that a Christian person does not feel like he is missing too much, in Islam. So there is a lot of common ground, and that could be one reason that so many Christian Arabs, and because some other reasons, converted to Islam. That is definitely one reason that same language and almost the same message keeps peace among Arab Muslims and Arab Christians and Arab Jews also. And so language does amazing things. It creates, good communication, good understanding, cultural, values are almost the same. And so I just wanted to show you the Arabic Bible because you are, of course, much more familiar with English Bible. But people, Christians in that part of the world, in Middle East, they read their Bible on a daily basis in Arabic language. Okay, let's see what else do we have in session 4. Now, we talked about, these messages, divine revelation, so to speak. They are contained in the Old Testament, which is the Torah, the Hebrew Bible. That's the base of the Old Testament. Then we talked about, Bible, the Gospel, or as in Arabic is called Injil, the New Testament. And later on would come the latest testament, so to speak, as the Muslim call their book, the Quran, the holy book of Islam. So you have a lot of, divine revelations, commandments, divine advice, so to speak, for whether they're Jews, Christian, and Muslims, and to keep them, in good contact and good peace. And that is the reason that we have, peace in the communities, although the problem between the Palestinian and Israelis, that is much more a political thing that we would talk about, not a religious. The fight between Israelis and Palestinians is not based on religion. It is not because Israelis are Jews or Palestinians are Muslim and Christian, it is because the Jewish people in 1948 established their state and then later on kept on going and taking more and more land from the Palestinians and created the friction and the conflict and quite a few wars, and that conflict still goes on. Unfortunately, so this is established that the war between the two is not because of religion. It is because of territorial, and it's because of the political problems between the two of them. Okay, let's see what else do we have. Okay, here comes reaction number 2 for you. In this session, write a brief note on the religious diversity of the Middle East and the Middle Eastern people. Why Muslims do not think of their religion, Islam, as a new religion. So here, maybe I could tell you, what is the background of Islam and why Muslims do not think of Christianity and Judaism as alien religions, okay, as some other people think of Islam. Okay, what connections do Muslims have with the past Middle Eastern religions? So I talked about it, and you can think, on your own and write a good answer for that reaction report. Let's see what else do we have. Arabic language. Okay, as I said, it's a Semitic language, written from right to left, and I think I'm going to give you a demo on here how to write Arabic language, and so I would write something in, it would be English but written in Arabic, and I would say what it is. Okay, let's see. Here I'm writing Leeward Community College in Arabic, and this is written from top down and to right, from right to left. This is Leeward. Community. This is college. Leeward Community College, written in Arabic, but every word of it is English, and that's how it's written from right to it goes left. And as I tell my students, we write English, in a wrong way from left to right. So here we are writing English backward. Or you can say Arabs, they write their language backward. It depends on you. Okay, so there is a short demo of how Arabic is written, Leeward Community College. Okay, let's see what else do we have here. Arabic language, as I said, is written from right to left. Arabic grammar, very important, as all grammars are, but the Arabic grammar important in the sense that because the Quran, the holy book of Islam, is in English, in Arabic, so that Quran sometimes needs interpretation, and the interpretation is strictly based on the Arabic grammar. So Quran goes, hand in hand with the grammar, and so the interpretation is kept original interpretation because the Arab grammar comes and plays itself. So here you have the Arabic from right to left. Tabarakallazi biyadihil mulk, and blessed he is in whose hand is the control of the universe or the control of the domain or the control of the world. So this Quran, originally in Arabic and still in Arabic, is maybe the way we write it now is not the way it was written 1400 years ago, because at that time it was much more oral and it was much more based on what you hear from the mouth of another person. And still people memorize it, and that's what they did. They memorize the whole Quran, by heart. And it was basically meant to recite, and as we do it even today or forever, in prayers. So later on, after the death of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, one of the caliphs, he put it together in writing, and that is the reason we have it now in writing. And so every word, every letter matters the most to Muslims, to keep it in its original form, even if the language would be a little bit, letters would be a little bit different. Okay, let's see what else we have in the presentation. So you could write your name in Arabic in this. I wrote Hawaii in this website, and it is available to you in the PowerPoint presentations. So you could write your name here. Okay, you write it in English, it would give you Arabic, how it's written in Arabic. The official language in the Middle East and North Africa, all in blue, that is the Arabic language, very widespread, used in the Middle East. Okay, so let's see in review what we did today. Well, we talked about the differences in the settlements and the trade of the Bedouin people, importance of tribal and clan connections for protection, especially religious diversity among in Arabia as to pagan Jews, Christian, and later on Muslims. And we talked about the Arabic as a Semitic language. So that is in a nutshell what we did today. And now you need to do is, if you have any question, any comments, you are most welcome to contact me via Laulima, or any assignment that you need to do, you go to Laulima and messages also. And thank you very much for joining us. See you next time with Islamic civilization. Aloha.